Imagine this: thousands of screaming fans, the blinding stage lights, and the king of rock and himself commanding the spotlight. Now picture someone daring enough to slip into that moment with a playful prank, only to have it twisted in front of the entire audience. What started as a joke quickly turned into a scene filled with gasps, laughter, and more than a little embarrassment. And the way Elvis chose to handle it? Let's just say it wasn't what anyone, least of all Priscilla, expected. Stick around, because the full story of that unforgettable night, and the deeper reason behind it, will leave you stunned. When you think of an Elvis Presley concert, you imagine more than just the music. It was an electrifying experience, a spectacle that blurred the line between performance and frenzy. Women rushed the stage, hoping for just a fleeting touch, while Elvis leaned into his famous kissing ritual, pulling lucky fans in for a quick embrace or peck on the cheek. It became part of the show, a playful tradition that fueled his image as both untouchable star and intimate charmer. For the crowd, it was magic. For Elvis, it was routine. And for those closest to him, it could feel like yet another reminder of how much of him belonged to the public instead of the private. Behind that dazzling spotlight was Priscilla, watching from the sidelines. To the world, she was the chosen one, the woman who had captured the heart of the king. But offstage, the reality was far less glamorous. Elvis's endless tours, his restless energy, and his tendency to avoid returning home left her longing for something more simple: his attention. Even when they shared the same space, she often felt like she was competing with an audience of thousands, each one pulling a piece of him away from her. That longing slowly turned into a mix of frustration and determination, a need to remind Elvis, and perhaps herself, that she was still right there beside him. So one night, with the stage set and the crowd roaring, Priscilla made a bold decision. If Elvis's shows had become his escape, then she would step into his world and meet him there, on his turf, under his lights, with thousands of eyes watching. Her plan wasn't malicious. It was playful, even flirtatious. Just a harmless little joke to catch him off guard, to break through the wall that fame had built between them. She thought she could steal just a sliver of his spotlight, make him laugh, and maybe, for a moment, feel like she had his full attention again. What she didn't know was that Elvis had his own way of turning the tables, and the result would be far. Priscilla didn't walk into this moment unprepared. She carefully crafted it. Slipping into a sleek black dress, cut daringly low in the back and paired with a dramatic hood, she chose an outfit that was equal parts elegant and provocative. From the front, it looked playful and glamorous, but from behind, with her hair cascading down to cover the strap at her neck, it gave the illusion of something far more risque. She knew the effect it would create under the blinding stage lights, and that was exactly the point: to surprise, to tease, and to make Elvis notice her in a way no one else ever could. When the moment came, she didn't stand out from the crowd at first. Instead, she blended seamlessly into the line of eager young women waiting for their chance at Elvis's famous onstage kiss. To the audience, she was just another adoring fan stepping into the fantasy of the show. But in her mind, this was different. This was personal. She wasn't just another face in the sea of admirers. She was his wife, taking a playful risk to remind him she could be both his partner and his most unexpected fan. The thrill of sneaking into that role must have been intoxicating, like walking a tightrope between private affection and public spectacle. Then came the reaction. As the stage lights glared and the crowd caught sight of her from behind, a ripple of shock swept through the audience. Gasps echoed across the venue, followed by delighted squeals and murmurs of disbelief. To them, it looked as if a topless woman had just cornered the king of rock and roll. The energy shifted instantly, electric with scandal and anticipation. Whispers spread through the crowd, fans craning their necks to catch a better view, waiting to see how Elvis would react to such a bold interruption. What Priscilla had imagined as a quick, playful stunt was already spiraling into something far bigger than she expected. At first, Elvis didn't so much as glance in her direction. The crowd was roaring, the band carried on, and he kept right on singing as if nothing unusual had happened. But that was the strange part. Everyone in the room knew something unusual had just happened. There she was, standing inches away from him, cloaked in mystery under the stage lights, and he carried on like she wasn't even there. The longer he ignored her, the more the tension grew. stretching out each note of the song like a spotlight that refused to move. Priscilla, caught between the thrill of the stunt and the weight of thousands of eyes fixed on her, tried to break the silence in her own discreet way. Leaning in close, she whispered urgently, kiss me, so I can sit down." Her words weren't meant for the audience. They were a plea to end the moment before it spiraled any further. But Elvis, always a master of timing and showmanship, chose not to grant her that relief. Instead, he let her words hang in the air, invisible to the crowd, but heavy enough to make her shift uneasily in place. Every second stretched longer, her playful confidence slowly giving way to anxious discomfort. And then came the twist. Elvis didn't move to dismiss her, didn't step away, and certainly didn't kiss her right away. He kept her there, trapped in the glare of the spotlight for the entirety of the song. What had begun as a mischievous attempt to get his attention had turned into something else entirely, a game where he held all the control. The audience laughed, whispered, and watched with fascination, unaware of her whispered desperation. For Priscilla, the joke had flipped completely, and she found herself the star of a scene she hadn't meant to create, waiting for Elvis to decide how it would end. And then, just when it seemed the moment might never end, Elvis made his move. With perfect timing, he brought the song to a close, turned toward her, and, without warning, planted a dramatic kiss on her lips. The crowd erupted in cheers, thrilled by the sudden display, completely unaware of the private tension that had been building between them. To the audience, it looked like a spontaneous, playful surprise, the kind of thing only Elvis could pull off in front of thousands. But for Priscilla, the kiss wasn't just a gesture. It was his way of seizing control of the situation and turning the tables in a way only he could. The kiss was followed by another unexpected twist. Elvis introduced her to the audience, casually revealing her identity as though she were simply part of the act. The crowd roared again, delighted to learn who the mysterious woman really was. For Priscilla, though, the spotlight had burned a little too brightly. What was meant to be a quick, cheeky prank ended with her walking back to her seat, cheeks warm, heart racing, and a swirl of embarrassment that lingered long after the applause died down. What she thought would be a moment shared between the two of them had turned into a spectacle she couldn't control. And that's what made the moment so unforgettable. In just a few minutes, Elvis had flipped her playful joke into a public scene, leaving her caught in the glow of a spotlight she hadn't expected to hold for so long. To the fans, it was a charming piece of theater, another reason to cheer for the king's quick wit and charisma. But for Priscilla, it was a reminder that when you stepped onto Elvis's stage, even with the best intentions, you never truly knew how the story would end. It was lighthearted on the surface, yes, but beneath it, the memory carried a sting that would stay with her long after that night was over. Looking back, Priscilla admitted that her pranks were never just about laughter or mischief. They were quiet attempts to reach Elvis in ways that words alone couldn't. Each playful stunt carried a deeper message, a longing for connection, for acknowledgement, for the kind of attention she often felt slipping away as his career consumed more and more of his life. Behind the smiles and teasing gestures was a young woman trying to bridge the distance between them, hoping a moment of surprise or humor might bring him closer, even if only for a little while. This desire for closeness was part of a much larger struggle in their marriage. Living in the shadow of one of the most famous men on earth meant constantly fighting to be seen as more than just a figure in the background. To the world, Priscilla was already the woman who had what millions of fans could only dream of. But inside their relationship, she often felt like she was competing not only with the adoring crowds, but also with Elvis's relentless need to be larger than life. Her small acts, whether playful pranks or bold gestures, were ways of reclaiming space in a world where she sometimes felt invisible. It wasn't long before she turned to other methods to keep his eyes fixed on her. She began experimenting with daring fashion choices, skimpy knit dresses, sheer fabrics, and striking outfits that drew whistles from his friends and pride from Elvis himself. To him, showing her off was a thrill, a symbol of his taste and charm. For Priscilla, though, it was more than just style, it was strategy. Every outfit, every glance, every moment under his gaze was her way of reminding him that she wasn't just part of the audience. She was his partner, standing right there, determined not to fade into the background of his fame. The great irony in all of this was that Elvis loved nothing more than showing Priscilla off to the world. He took pride in her beauty, in the way people's heads turned when she walked into a room, and in how his friends marveled at her style. On the surface, it seemed like a glamorous role, being admired, being cherished, being held up as proof of the king's good taste. But beneath that glittering image, moments like the one on stage revealed cracks in their relationship. What appeared as lighthearted play to an audience often carried an undercurrent of imbalance, leaving Priscilla caught between the role of devoted wife and unwilling participant in Elvis's theater. That unforgettable night on stage captured the sharp contrast between Elvis's playful charm and Priscilla's raw vulnerability. He knew how to command the moment, how to turn silence into suspense and laughter into release. For him, it was showmanship. For her, it was exposure. She had stepped forward with a private plan, but once Elvis flipped it, she became part of a performance she never signed up for. It was both endearing and cruel, a reminder of how their personal relationship so often blurred into his public persona. Behind the cheers and applause was the quiet truth that Priscilla's needs were often overshadowed by Elvis's control of the spotlight. And yet, this was not the only time such dynamics played out between them. This single moment on stage was just a glimpse into a much deeper story, a relationship full of affection, tension, and hidden struggles that fans rarely saw. For every playful joke or dazzling display, there were countless other instances where the balance of power shifted in ways that left Priscilla longing for something more. As captivating as this story is, it's only one chapter in a larger narrative filled with surprising twists and revelations that would shape the legacy of their time together. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more untold moments from Elvis's life, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Don't forget to like this video. It really helps us share these hidden stories with more fans around the world. And we'd love to hear from you. What do you think about this unforgettable moment? Drop your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going.